Welcome to the Spring Arts Celebration, produced by the Nantucket Arts Council and Nantucket Community Television. We would like to introduce you to artists working on the island who have engaged in their work in their homes, studios, and out of doors throughout this past year. Some you may already know, and some you may just be meeting for the very first time. Each artist seeks their own personal form of expression. Here is an opportunity to become familiar with who they are and what they do. We are grateful to them for their ability to breathe courage, energy, and hope into our days. We know that not every day was a good day for each of them throughout this past year, and yet they persevered. We recognize that our artists remained at work through this pandemic, even as we now just begin to emerge.
Welcome to our video series, Emergence at Work in the Pandemic, featuring Nantucket artists. In this video, we feature local artists who provide creative perspectives on the pandemic and the many challenges we have all faced.
I always loved Nantucket, but I first arrived there over 30 years ago. I was living in LA at the time, and I had been out for a weekend or two before then because my sister used to summer out in Nantucket, or still does. And I remember I was living in LA. I was doing stand-up. Had done a bunch of television stand-up comedy appearances.
His big thing was he was talking about football, American football. He'd seen 2 football games, and he didn't understand it. So imagine watching a football game for the first time, not knowing the rules or anything. He's like, I don't get it. I don't like that game. I don't get it. I'm like, what don't you get? He goes, I don't get it. I don't like it. I go, well, tell me, what don't you get? He goes, okay, this is what I see. And he starts to explain American football. He goes, this is what I see. I see a bunch of big, huge guys, right? Standing around in a circle, looking at each other, going, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Then these guys come up with this big secret plan, right? And then these big, huge guys, they walk up slowly, make 2 big lines, and then one guy takes the ball and runs right into the pile. I'm like, that's the best you could come up with? That was your big secret plan? Then they slowly walk back to the circle, look at each other and go, okay, that didn't work. What do you want to do? That's a good point, Banner.
The pandemic was an interesting time for all of us, and it created a sort of a void that needed to be filled for people, especially if they're artists and people who absorb art. I think it was a tough time. Also, Stand Up and Learn really kind of benefited from the quarantine because the kids were at home. I couldn't get out to the island. I couldn't do my normal Stand Up and Learn calls, my Stand Up and Learn classes with them, but I was able to teach them via Zoom, which is what I'm on right now. This amazing technology, Zoom. Most of us that are my age thought it was a TV show. I love to laugh, love to make other people laugh, and I love to hang around creative people who are funny as well. It's been a really rewarding life that stand-up comedy has given me.
Well, I'm an artist. I'm also teaching. I teach at Arts Association. I teach at Lighthouse right now, 4th and 5th graders. And I'm also the Sunday school teacher at the Unitarian Universalist. So I've really enjoyed making little kits, art kits for the kids during the pandemic. And my 2-year-old and I drive around the island and drop off Ziploc bags of art supplies from Nantucket to Sconset. And it's kind of my way of playing this like romantical fiction of Great Depression. My grandmother, when she was 13, she would drive her father around during the Great Depression. He was a doctor, and I still wear the ring that he was paid for delivering a baby during the Great Depression. So I've kind of made myself, it's really helped me lift my spirits and think, all right, everyone's suffering, like what can I give to people when we're in a really tough emotional thing like a pandemic, Great Depression, some deep, difficult thing in our own life. There's the joy when you find that happiness again. And sometimes you have to go back on the path and try to remember, okay, what was it that gave me so much joy originally for me, like drawing or just playing with color abstractly was something that I had the chance to go back and reconnect with. And it's kind of made a new series of paintings that I hope I'll get to share with people soon. The pandemic actually has allowed me to blossom a whole new body of work. Just COVID actually, the visual of COVID under the microscope. I've always been interested in microscopic images, phytoplankton, plant cells, parts of bugs, as some of my drawings will show. But just seeing those images of COVID, just some very beautiful colors, and that's kind of just the whole principle of art to me, actually. And what I emphasize whenever I'm teaching is how something that's really scary can actually be so visually beautiful. What better time to have a personal revival and get really core about what's important to you and what really fulfills you. I love doing landscapes and portraiture, and it's very fun for me, and I'll do them forever. But the pandemic has really gotten me to think about what is most important. If this is it, like, what do I want to leave behind?
My name is Lizza Obremski. I own a puppetry company called Nantucket, which I started in 2015. I perform live puppet shows for kids all around the island. Since COVID hit, I've had to do a lot of things on Zoom, mostly through the Athenaeum. I started making puppets when I was younger in college, and then relearned how to make them with Joe Zito on the island about 7 or 8 years ago. I started Nantucket in 2015, and a year or two later, I got in touch with Sue Riddle, who's a children's illustrator, and we collaborated to make 6 episodes of a kids' TV show based on Nantucket called Out to Sea. And it was live action with myself and the puppets, and then we took her illustrations and put them together. And that's been an amazing adventure too. It's been quite a learning curve of how to do things on television, and NCTV has actually been great. We've worked with them a lot, and they've taught us everything we know about it. I've found that creating is a very important part of life, no matter what it is that you're actually making. As long as I have something to do with my hands, I can have a terrible day, and if I just make myself sit down and make something, no matter what it is, I feel better.
Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clarence. I'm a clam. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm very glad Lizza created me. Would you like to meet some more of our friends? Lovely. One moment, please.
Hello, everybody. Say hello, Tear. I am Snoof the Sea Monster, and Lizza was just saying, what do we love about our artwork? Well, we like to make people happy and joyful and silly and fun.
It's true.
I'm a painter, obviously, and I came to Nantucket maybe 4 years ago because I was living out west and I was kind of getting sick of it or bored. So I wanted to go somewhere else. I came here to work a summer and make enough money to go somewhere else, which I didn't really know where that would be, but I like it here. Being an artist makes me feel whole as a person because it's like, I guess, my purpose in life. Because there's a period of time where I started to lose that, where I didn't, it happened slowly, where I started not feeling like myself. Having like the thing that you do is super important because without it, you're just lost. How I worked through the pandemic it's pretty much how I always work because I already self-isolate. So that was compounded even more. And I work usually at nights, like starting at 9 or 10, and I drink a lot of coffee until I'm about to have a heart attack. Yeah, I just used mostly the time to recombobulate myself. I don't know, the world moves slower for me, so it was good to just take a year off where everything was closed and nobody expected anything. So this is a good time just to, catch up and hide and paint.
My name is Tom Stoddart, and I came to Nantucket back in 1995, and that was to help my friend Gavin Jones figure out how to make lots of these little boats. And we figured it out, and we ended up making lots of these little boats, but they're the Rainbow Fleet, and it's all wood, mahogany hull, and cedar sails. What keeps me here is the music, or was the music, because there's some wonderful musicians out here. The first 2 years I was here, I would go off island and travel around New England and play music and take the boat back, and it was a pretty big deal to make that trip. So ended up meeting some great musicians out here and formed different groups and played and had a great time. So the question is, what is my art and how do I do it? And it's a little bit complicated because I have many different interests. I mean, the pandemic has been really tough on everyone, and so it actually made me a little bit sad that the kids couldn't gather at the school garden like they used to be able to. It was teeming with kids and planting things, and the sculpture would be going. But when I had brought the sculpture there was no kids. It was really sad that these things would be not seen. I think the trick for me is looking at adversity as opportunity. And you just have to be willing to shift and let things go and move on, and there's that's life.
I'm a pianist and keyboard player. I've been playing pretty much my entire life. I feel like working within the arts and music performance specifically has been part of a value system and philosophy of how to live since I was young, based on how I was raised and what I was exposed to as a kid. And that's fueled by a love of all kinds of arts, visual arts, performing arts, music, obviously, film, and a curiosity that I've had about checking all those things out my whole life. I haven't really been sharing my music much during this pandemic. My whole life I've been trained to be a live performer and to be in a room with other people. And I just haven't been attracted to trying to jump on the bandwagon to make everything virtual or do live. I feel like working within the arts and music performance specifically has been part of a value system and philosophy of how to live since I was young, based on how I was raised and what I was exposed to as a kid. And that's fueled by a love of all kinds of arts, visual arts, performing arts, music, obviously, film, and a curiosity that I've had about checking all those things out my whole life and trying to find ways to work within them and be inspired by things that I have seen and heard. And working in the pandemic, it's kind of been an absence of work in some ways, because the collaborative process for me hasn't really been there.
In March of 2020, the Nantucket Arts Council recognized the need to provide grants to individual artists. We hoped that in some small way, these grants would demonstrate how much we value and treasure their work. NAC, established in 1976, supports and provides opportunities on our island of Nantucket for artists and cultural institutions to celebrate and collaborate in the arts. We produce festivals, concert series, and we award annual scholarships and grants to members of the Nantucket community.